Talia Rivers didn't mean to ruin her life before sunrise, but that's exactly what happened. She stood in the dim, cracked bathroom of the Omega quarters, staring at a tiny white stick that felt heavier than her entire future. 2 pink lines, clear, sharp, unforgiving, pregnant. Her breath hitched, fast and shallow, like her lungs were suddenly too small for her chest. She grabbed the chipped sink for balance, knuckles whitening. It wobbled under her grip. Everything wobbled. In the silence, the truth echoed louder than any scream. She was carrying a pup. And not just anyone's pup. Her mind dragged her back to that night, the one she'd buried so deep she still wasn't sure it was real. The stranger cloaked in shadows. His scent, pine smoke, cold night, something ancient and dominant. The way he'd moved, like a storm disguised as a man. Like someone who wasn't supposed to exist in her world. She'd never seen his face, never heard his name, never expected to see him again. But she'd felt him. Every instinct had recognized him. Her wolf had bowed before she even understood why. One reckless night. One impossible mistake. And now, this. Talia pressed a trembling hand to her stomach as if she could hold the truth in place, as if she could stop the panic clawing its way up her throat. The Eldermore pack would destroy her if they found out. Pregnant Omegas without mates were disgraced, tossed out, exiled, hunted by rogues, used, broken. She'd seen it happen. "Okay," she whispered shakily. "Okay. Think. Just think." Her fingers fumbled for her phone. Maya. She needed Maya. Her only friend. Her only lifeline. With shaking hands, she snapped a picture of the test. Her vision blurred, but she typed anyway. Talia. "Maya, I'm pregnant. I don't know what to do." Her thumb hit send. A beat. A heartbeat. A faint electric click in her ears. Then her blood went cold. The message didn't go to Maya. Her breath stopped completely. She blinked once, twice, 3 times, hoping it was just the panic twisting what she saw. But no. Her eyes locked onto the name above the message. King Darius Vale, Royal Enforcer Line. Talia's soul left her body. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no, no. Please, please, no." The ruthless Alpha King. The man whose power stretched across every pack in the Western Crescent. The man who ended wars with a sentence. Who executed traitors before they could beg. Who didn't tolerate lies or weakness. And she had just sent him a pregnancy test. Her heart pounded so violently she thought it might burst through her ribs. Her legs nearly buckled. This was death. This was suicide. He was going to kill her for insolence. Or imprisonment. Or worse. He'd think she was accusing him. Trapping him. Her phone buzzed. She flinched like she'd been struck. One message. Short. Sharp. Deadly. King Darius Vale. Interesting. Her stomach twisted violently. Before she could breathe, another message flashed. King Darius Vale. Be ready in 1 hour. Her fingers went numb. A third message dropped like a blade. King Darius Vale. You're coming to the Citadel, Omega. Talia couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. Couldn't move. The Citadel wasn't just a palace. It was a fortress. An iron cage where no one entered unless summoned, and absolutely no one left without permission. Her wolf pressed hard against her ribs, trembling, not warning, not protesting, recognizing. Something deep inside her, something instinctual, shivered like it had heard a command from a master it already knew. She shoved the thought away. She couldn't afford to think about that night, about the way that stranger had made her feel, about the way her wolf had melted, or the terrifying possibility that, no, stop, no. She grabbed her coat with shaking hands, though the cheap fabric offered no comfort. Her breath fogged in the air as she scrambled out of the bathroom. The Omega quarters buzzed with early morning noise, pots clattering, orders being barked, the usual chaos. But it all felt distant, muted, like she was moving underwater. Talia moved fast down the hallway, clutching her coat, her phone, her stomach. Behind her ribs, fear thrashed like a trapped bird. Outside, the first hints of dawn stretched pale fingers across the sky. Frost clung to the broken fences. The Eldermore compound looked bleak, cold, unforgiving, just like her future, unless she obeyed the king. The phone buzzed again. She didn't want to look. Every cell begged her not to look. But she did. King Darius Vale. Do not keep me waiting. Her knees nearly gave out. That was no invitation, no request. It was an order, an alpha's command, one her wolf couldn't resist even if she tried. Talia took one shaky step toward the gate, then another, then another. Her breath came in shallow bursts. Her thoughts spiraled. Her instincts whispered things she didn't want to hear, things she'd been trying to forget since that night. She didn't know if the king was summoning her to punish her, claim her, or destroy her. But she knew one thing for certain. Her life would never, ever be the same. And as she crossed the threshold of the Omega quarters, the wind carried a scent she hoped she imagined, cold pine and distant smoke, wrapping around her like a warning. Or a promise. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell me where you are watching from. The car was silent, too silent. Talia sat stiffly in the back seat of the matte black vehicle, hands gripping the frayed hem of her coat like it was armor. But nothing could protect her from this. Not fabric, not prayer, not logic. The driver hadn't said a word. Not a name, not a greeting. Just opened the door with military precision and waited while she hesitated on the edge of everything she'd ever known. Now, trees flashed past in a blur of gray and ice. The road wound deeper into the forest. No signs, no markers, just endless wilderness leading her towards something ancient and terrifying. Every bump in the road felt like a countdown. Talia's stomach twisted with a mix of fear and nausea. Maybe it was the pregnancy. Maybe it was the sheer weight of what she'd done. No, not what she'd done. What had happened. That message was a mistake. A horrible, irreversible mistake. And now she was headed straight into the jaws of the most feared alpha in the realm. She clutched her phone. No signal, of course. Like she'd already crossed a threshold. Like the world outside no longer applied. The car finally slowed. Ahead, 2 towering iron gates groaned open, revealing an estate that didn't look real. The Citadel. It was made of black stone and frost-kissed steel, rising out of the forest like a fortress carved from the bones of winter. Watchtowers lined the perimeter. Guard wolves in full tactical gear flanked the entrance. Talia's wolf curled tight inside her chest. Not in fear. Recognition. The vehicle stopped. The driver stepped out and opened her door without a word. Cold air slapped her skin. It smelled like pine, metal, and him. She stepped out, legs trembling, heart beating loud enough to echo in her ears. Then she saw him. Darius Vale, the ruthless Alpha King. Tall, broad, still as a mountain and just as unyielding. Hair as black as a winter storm. Eyes the color of forged steel. Power radiated from him in waves. Thick, suffocating, magnetic. Every nerve in her body screamed to run, or fall to her knees. He took one step toward her. She didn't move. He didn't speak. And for a moment, the entire world held its breath. Talia looked up at him, really looked, and something inside her shifted. Her wolf rose to the surface, not in fear, but in stunned silence. It was the same feeling from that night, the pull, the ache, the certainty. It was him. He was the stranger, the one who'd held her through the fever of heat like she was something fragile and burning all at once, the one who'd left before dawn with no name, no promise. But he was no mystery now. He was king. "Do you remember me?" he asked, voice deep, unhurried. She couldn't lie, not to him. Her throat tightened. "Yes." He studied her for a long moment, eyes flicking down to her abdomen, then back to her face. "Good," he said simply, then turned on his heel. "Follow me." She hesitated. He glanced back. His gaze sharpened. "Now, Omega." Her feet obeyed before her mind caught up. Inside, the Citadel was everything the outside world feared it would be. Cold, stunning, and silent. Vaulted ceilings, fireplaces burning low, guard presence everywhere. Every inch smelled like power and bloodlines. Darius led her through a long corridor without speaking. Wolves bowed as he passed. Some glanced at her, confused. Others looked scandalized. Let them stare, she thought. She had bigger problems. They reached a private wing, doors taller than any she'd ever seen. Darius opened one and gestured her inside. His voice was calm, unreadable. "You'll stay here." Talia stepped into a room that could have swallowed her whole. Marble floors, velvet curtains, a roaring fire, and a bed bigger than anything she'd ever touched. It wasn't a guest room. It was a queen's room. Her voice shook. "Why are you doing this?" He leaned against the doorway, arms crossed. "Because you carry my air." Her pulse stumbled. "You're sure it's yours?" He raised a brow. "You don't remember?" Heat rose in her face. I remember," she whispered. "But we didn't bond. We didn't even—" He stepped closer, slow and deliberate. "I knew the moment I touched you," he said quietly. "You were mine. I felt it." She looked up at him, trembling. "Then why did you leave?" A flicker of something crossed his face. Not regret, not softness, just calculation. "I had enemies to deal with," he said. "Timing wasn't right. And now it is?" His gaze dropped to her stomach. "Now it has to be." Talia folded her arms, trying to look braver than she felt. "So what happens now? You keep me here like a prisoner?" "No," he said. She waited. "You'll stay here," he continued, "because you're carrying the next alpha of the Western Crescent, and that makes you a target, not a prisoner." She blinked. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. He nodded. "Neither did I." They stood in silence. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind howled. Then his voice dropped low. "But the moment you sent that message," he paused, eyes locked on hers, "you stopped being no one." Talia's breath hitched. She didn't know whether to feel safe or terrified. Probably both. He turned to leave. "Rest. We talk tomorrow." And then the door shut. Talia woke to silence. Not the kind she was used to, where you had to hold your breath to hear if someone was coming. Not the silence of fear, of creaking floorboards and whispered orders. This was hollow, clean, expensive. She sat up in the bed, confusion swirling in her chest. Her hand instinctively moved to her stomach. Still there, still real. The king's bed, the king's room, had swallowed her whole. Velvet sheets, pillows softer than clouds, a fireplace burning quietly across the room. Every corner of it said one thing: you don't belong here. And yet, here she was, still breathing, still not imprisoned. still very much claimed. Her wolf stirred under her skin, restless. Not afraid, but alert. Something was coming. The knock came soft. 2 taps, then a pause. Talia froze. A woman entered without waiting. Older, stern-faced, dressed in charcoal gray, clipboard in hand. A beta by scent. "You're awake," she said briskly. "Good. Breakfast will be brought shortly. His Majesty requests your presence at noon." Talia blinked. "Requests or commands?" The woman arched a brow. "Does it matter?" "Fair point." Talia cleared her throat. "Who are you?" "Majordomo Neris. I oversee daily affairs in the West Wing." "West Wing? As in hers?" Talia looked around again, the reality beginning to sink in. This wasn't a temporary stay. She was expected to live here, a queen-sized prison, built in luxury. The woman continued without missing a beat. "You'll be assigned security, a lady's attendant, a physician, and a political tutor." Talia's heart thudded. "Why a political tutor?" "Because you're no longer a servant," Neris said flatly. "You're carrying royal blood. Everything about you now affects the throne, even your silence." Then she turned and left, as swiftly as she came. Talia sat there, stunned. Silence settled again, but it felt heavier this time, like she was being watched, measured, judged. She wasn't imagining it. When breakfast came, silver dome trays on a carved mahogany cart, it was wheeled in by 2 attendants in royal uniforms who wouldn't look her in the eye. Later, she wandered into the hall and felt it again. The stares. The palace staff didn't speak, but their expressions did. Some curious, some confused, most disapproving, like she was a glitch in the system, a stray mutt curled up on the throne. She ducked into a side corridor to escape the weight of it. Her heart pounded and she hated herself for it, for caring, for shrinking. She'd spent her whole life being invisible, and now that they were all looking, she still felt like nothing. A mistake. A wrong message. And yet it had landed her here, carried her into a world she was never supposed to touch. She found a quiet balcony and leaned against the railing. Snow flurried in the air, dancing across the citadel courtyard. Soldiers moved below in clean, precise lines. Wolves in human form, efficient, deadly. And somewhere inside these stone walls, Darius Vale, the man who had changed everything without meaning to. Or maybe he had meant to. Maybe this was part of some larger plan. She didn't know. She didn't understand him. Not yet. But what haunted her wasn't the fear. It wasn't even the pregnancy. It was how her wolf responded to him. How, in the deepest part of her soul, she'd felt that bond hum, quiet but alive. When he looked at her, when he touched her, when he claimed her with a glance. Talia shivered and pulled her coat tighter. The air here felt colder, sharper. Nothing like Eldermore. Nothing like the damp rooms she used to clean or the cramped basement where she once slept. Here, everything was too big. Too clean, too bright, like it was designed to expose her. A tap behind her made her whirl around. "Apologies," said a soft voice. A girl stood there, barely older than Talia. Warm brown skin, wide eyes, curly dark hair tucked into a braid. "I didn't mean to scare you," she added. I'm Lysa. I've been assigned to assist you." "Assigned?" Talia asked warily. "As your personal attendant." "Oh." An awkward pause. Then, "You don't have to be afraid of me," Lysa added quickly. "I volunteered. I think what's happening is kind of amazing, actually." Talia gave her a look. "Amazing?" Lysa flushed. "I mean, terrifying, too." but kind of hopeful. You're the first Omega to ever live in this wing, the first to carry royal blood in, well, ever. That landed heavy. Talia wasn't just here. She was history now, whether she wanted to be or not. Before she could respond, a bell chimed from somewhere deep in the citadel. Lisa straightened. "That's the king's call. He's ready to see you." Talia nodded stiffly. Every nerve in her body flared to life. The ruthless king was calling. She followed Lisa down marble corridors, heart thudding louder with each step. Past paintings she didn't recognize. Past guards who watched her without blinking. Past doors thicker than castle walls, until they stopped. One door, black, gold inlaid, carved with the crest of the royal house of Vale. Lisa gave her a shaky smile. "You'll be fine," she whispered. "I think he likes you." Talia stared at the door, pulse hammering in her throat. "God's help me," she murmured, and pushed it open. He didn't look up when she entered. Darius Vale stood by the window, back to her, hands clasped behind him. Cold sunlight spilled across his shoulders, catching the edge of his black jacket. Everything about him looked carved, like someone had chiseled power into his bones and left nothing soft behind. Talia stepped in slowly, heart pounding loud in her ears. She didn't know where to put her hands, didn't know where to look. The room felt like a throne hall and a trap, both at once. She expected guards. There were none, just him and her. The door shut behind her with a soft click. Still, he didn't speak. The silence stretched, thick with expectation. Finally, he turned and looked directly at her. That look, that same gaze from the forest night she'd tried to forget. Steady, sharp, like he could see things she hadn't said yet, like he could feel them. "You're not what I expected," he said quietly. Talia blinked. "What did you expect?" He took a step closer, not rushed, not threatening, just deliberate. Someone who would lie, or beg, or pretend they didn't remember me. She swallowed hard. "I didn't send that message on purpose," she said, voice barely above a whisper. "I know." Another step. Her breath caught. "I panicked." "You should have." Another step. He was close now. She could see the faint scar on his jaw, the tension in his shoulders. "But you didn't run," he added. "I didn't think I'd be allowed to." He studied her for a long moment. "You were right." Talia's fingers twitched at her sides. She hated the way her body reacted to him, the way her wolf stirred under her skin, quiet and drawn. She should hate him. She should be afraid, but what she felt was worse. She felt known. "I need to ask you something," she said suddenly, the words spilling out. "Go on." "That night," she hesitated. "Why were you there?" His jaw flexed, the first crack in his stone mask. "I was hunting," he said, "and not for sport." Her brows lifted. "You mean rogues?" "I mean alphas," he said flatly. "Traitors. From inside the council." Talia blinked. That was not what she expected. "You went alone?" "I don't trust anyone else to finish a kill cleanly." That answer shouldn't have rattled her, but it did. He turned away, walked toward the fire and poured himself a glass of something dark. The scent of whiskey drifted through the air. "You were in heat," he said suddenly, voice low. Talia froze. "Yes," she said quietly. "I knew I should walk away," he continued, not facing her. "Every part of me screamed that it was dangerous, wrong, but I couldn't." He looked over his shoulder. "And neither could you." The truth of it sat between them like fire. She hadn't been helpless. Not that night. She'd said yes with her body, with her wolf, with her soul. But now, "This wasn't supposed to happen," she said. "No, it wasn't." Silence again. Then, "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" He exhaled through his nose. "Because for one night, I didn't want to be king. I didn't want politics, or war, or rules. I just wanted to be a man." She laughed, bitter and breathless. "Well, mission accomplished." He looked at her, and for the first time, something behind his eyes shifted. Not cold, not cruel, just tired. "The last time I took a mate," he said quietly, "she was murdered." Talia blinked. "What?" "Poisoned." His voice was flat, controlled. "By a noble who didn't like the idea of an alpha king mating a lowborn she-wolf." Her breath left her. "I made a vow that day," he said. "Never again. No more love, no more softness, no more blind spots." He looked at her fully now. "But you—" He shook his head slightly, as if frustrated with himself. "You ruined that vow with one message." Talia felt her stomach flip. Not in fear, in recognition. He was trying to stay distant, but something was already pulling him in. And worse, something was pulling her too. "So what do you want from me now?" she asked, trying to steady her voice. Darius took a step closer. One hand reached out, hesitated, then dropped. "I want to protect what's mine," he said. "Even if I didn't plan for it, even if I don't deserve it." The air between them buzzed. "You don't own me," she whispered. "No," he said. "But I will protect you. And the child. With everything I am. Even if I leave?" "You won't," he said simply. Talia's jaw tightened. "Why not?" "Because your wolf won't let you," he said. "And neither will mine." She hated that he was right. Every instinct inside her pulled toward him. Not out of fear, out of something deeper, older, something she didn't have a name for yet. He turned away again. "The council already knows you're here," he said. "The rumors are spreading. Some of them will come for you, quietly, legally, or not." "And you'll just what? Kill them?" His eyes met hers, hard and merciless. "Yes." She exhaled shakily. This was her life now. A kingdom she didn't ask for, a king she couldn't ignore, and a secret growing inside her that might change everything. She looked at him one last time. "Then I guess we're stuck with each other," she said. He didn't smile. Not really. But something flickered at the corner of his mouth. The dress was too tight. Talia tugged at the sleeves again, fingers sweating inside the delicate lace. The silk clung to her like second skin. Too elegant, too revealing, too obviously not hers. But that wasn't what made her sick to her stomach. It was the banquet. Her first public appearance as the Omega carrying the Alpha King's child. She stared at herself in the mirror, struggling to recognize the girl looking back. Hair styled into soft waves, skin powdered, lips stained with some royal berry pigment. She looked like she belonged in the palace. She didn't. The knock at the door came soft, polite. Then Darius walked in like he didn't need permission. His eyes scanned her slowly. Not with lust. With calculation, like he was making sure she could survive what was coming. "You look acceptable." Talia arched a brow. "Is that supposed to be a compliment?" "It's an observation," he said. "You'll want thicker skin for tonight." That didn't help. He offered his arm. "Shall we?" She hesitated, then took it. His scent wrapped around her instantly. Pine, smoke, cold steel. Her wolf stirred, unsettled and alert. The corridor echoed beneath their steps. Every guard bowed. Every servant looked away. but whispers followed them like shadows. When they reached the banquet hall doors, Talia froze. The sound inside was already deafening. Laughter, music, clinking silver. It felt like stepping toward a battlefield. Only this one had chandeliers and red wine. "Ready?" Darius asked. "No." "Good," he said. "Means you're paying attention." The doors opened. A wall of scent, sound, and power hit her at once. Alphas, everywhere. Every seat was filled with nobles and war generals, council wolves, pack leaders, all turning their heads to look as the king stepped in with an Omega on his arm. Silence fell. Then, like a slow poison, the murmurs began. Talia kept her chin high, every step beside Darius rehearsed in her mind. But her hands were sweating. Her stomach flipped. They reached the head table. Darius didn't speak. He just pulled out her chair. Not like a gentleman, like a statement. This Omega sits beside the king. Talia swallowed hard and sat. The room began to breathe again. Conversations resuming, music rising. But the tension hadn't gone anywhere. Every eye still burned on her. "You're doing fine," Darius said quietly beside her. She didn't believe him. Halfway through the meal, she felt someone watching her from across the table. A woman, tall, beautiful, sharp as broken glass. Lady Celine of Eldermore. Talia's stomach dropped. She hadn't seen her since she was 12. Scrubbing dishes in Celine's estate kitchens while being called a stain on the pack's honor. Now Celine raised her glass, smiling. "Talia Rivers," she purred. "What an elevated position you found yourself in." Talia froze. Every head nearby turned toward them. Darius looked up but didn't speak, so Talia did. She forced a smile. "Elevation isn't always by choice." Celine's grin sharpened. "Oh, but surely you chose something. Or someone. Or some condition, perhaps." Laughter around them. Talia's heart thundered. She could hear the whispers again. Omega. Mistake. Scandal. Her vision blurred. Not from tears. From rage. "I may not be one of you," Talia said softly. "But I didn't come here to pretend I am." The table went still. Even Darius looked over. Celine blinked. "I didn't claw my way into this dress," Talia continued. "Just to play pretend. I'm not here to please you." Her voice shook. "But I will outlast you." Celine's smile faltered. Darius raised his glass. "To the future queen," he said. Gasps around the table. No hesitation in his voice. Talia stared at him, stunned. He didn't look back. He just drank. Later, as the banquet thinned and nobles slipped away with murmurs and sideways glances, Darius stood. "Walk with me," he said. Talia followed him out onto the terrace. Cold wind wrapped around her, biting her skin through the silk. He didn't say anything at first. Just looked out over the city lights. "You handled yourself well," he said finally. "I embarrassed you." "You embarrassed them." She looked at him. Really looked. "Why did you say that? About me being queen?" He didn't blink. "Because the idea of you being less than that irritates me." She exhaled, chest tight. "What are we doing, Darius?" He looked down at her. "I don't know," he said, "but it's already too late to stop." And then, God's help her, he reached for her hand, and she didn't pull away. Talia's arms burned, her legs ached, and her patience had officially cracked 2 hours ago. "Again!" the instructor barked. She raised the dagger, pivoted, swung. Too slow. The wooden blade slammed against her ribs. Hard. She gasped, stumbled back, nearly dropped the weapon. The instructor didn't blink. You're still hesitating. I'm pregnant, she snapped. He raised an eyebrow. So's half the royal guard's wives. Doesn't mean they get sloppy. Talia grit her teeth. Sweat rolled down her spine, cold despite the heat in the training hall. The floor was stone. The walls were echo chambers. A few wolves stood in the corner watching silently. Her new security detail. All alphas, all judging. She hated this. She hated how weak she felt under their eyes, how small. But she kept going. Another swing, another block, another bruise. Because failure wasn't an option anymore. Not here. Not with Darius watching from a place she couldn't see, but always felt. This wasn't just training, it was transformation. She was being sculpted. Not into a weapon, into a symbol. The Omega who defied the packs, the mother of the future Alpha heir. The woman who stood beside the king, not behind him. At least that's what they told her. But most days, it felt like she was being broken down just to be built up into something someone else wanted. After her session, she limped back to the royal wing, shoulders bruised, pride bleeding. Lysa was waiting in her quarters with a tray of food and a stack of law books. "You've got another lesson in an hour," she said gently. "Council etiquette," Talia groaned. "Please tell me that's code for a nap." "Nope. It's code for don't get publicly humiliated next week." Talia dropped into the chair. "Great." Lisa smiled sympathetically, setting down tea. "You're doing better than you think, you know." Talia looked up. "Am I?" "Most Omegas I know wouldn't last a day here." Talia blinked. "Most Omegas aren't forced to." "True," Lysa said softly. "But that's why what you're doing matters." The words landed hard. They mattered. Even if she didn't feel strong. Even if every step felt like dragging her old self into a fire just to see what survived. She rubbed her belly. It was starting to show. Just a little. A soft swell beneath her robe. Enough that the maids noticed. Enough that the stares were getting louder. Even the nobles had started whispering openly now. About her. About it. The Omega. The baby. The scandal. There were rumors Darius was bewitched. That she was a plant from a rival pack. That she'd used heat as a weapon. No one said it to her face. But she could feel it in every hallway. Every bow that didn't quite dip low enough. And yet, every time Darius entered a room with her at his side, he gave them nothing. No explanation, no apologies. Just presence. Power. And silence. It said everything. After dinner that night, he joined her in the garden. No guards, no crown, just him. He watched her for a long moment as she knelt beside the fountain, dipping her fingers into the water. "You fought well today," he said. "I got hit. A lot. You didn't quit. I thought about it. But you didn't." She stood slowly, brushing her hands off on her robe. "I don't belong here," she said. "Not really." He stepped closer, not touching, just near. "You think belonging is given?" he asked. "You think I was born with it?" She frowned. "You're the Alpha King." "I'm also the bastard son of a rogue Omega and a drunk general," he said flatly. "Do you think the council welcomed me with open arms?" Talia froze. He'd never told her that. He saw the shock in her eyes and shrugged slightly. "My mother was nothing. No name. No bond. She died in childbirth." His voice stayed calm. "They tried to bury me with her. Said I'd dilute the bloodline." Talia's heart stuttered. "I killed my first alpha at 13, he continued, just to keep my place in the military academy." "Gods," she whispered. He looked down at her. "Belonging isn't given, Talia. It's taken. And once you take it, they can never take it back." She looked up at him, really looked. Not the king, not the killer, just the boy who'd been told he was nothing, and clawed his way into something. Her chest tightened. He turned to leave. but paused. "You're stronger than they know," he said. "Stronger than you know." And then, quieter, "That's why they're afraid of you." Talia stood there long after he was gone, moonlight cutting across the stones, hand pressed to her belly. Maybe she was afraid too. Not of them, of who she was becoming. Talia stood at the edge of the chamber, breath tight in her lungs. 12 thrones, 12 alphas, 12 eyes watching her like she didn't belong. Because to them, she didn't. She wasn't supposed to be in this room. This place wasn't made for Omegas. It wasn't made for women like her at all. But Darius had sent her here, alone. "This is your war," he'd said that morning, his hand warm on her shoulder. "You don't need me to fight it for you." And now? Now she was in the lion's den. The council hall was carved from obsidian and old laws. Ancient crests lined the walls. Torches burned blue with wolf fire. Every inch of the room whispered history and blood. She took a step forward. The floor vibrated faintly under her boots. Not magic, not power, judgment. Alpha Ronan, her former pack leader, was the first to speak. "Talia Rivers," he said coldly. "I barely recognized you without a mop in your hands." She didn't flinch. Not this time. "Good," she said. "Means I've changed." A few murmurs rose from the circle of alphas. One of them, Alpha Lice from the northern reaches, leaned forward. "We've called this hearing," he said, "because your presence beside the king has created instability." Talia's jaw clenched. Instability. They couldn't say it outright. Couldn't admit they hated that an Omega had made her way to the throne. "We're concerned about bloodlines," said another. "Tradition. Loyalty. Intentions." The words hit like stones. One by one, Talia let them. She wasn't here to beg. She was here to stand. She took a breath and stepped into the center circle, surrounded on all sides by wolves who'd rather see her erased than elevated. "I'm not here to defend my existence," she said quietly. "I'm here because you already decided what I am, before I ever opened my mouth." The room stilled. Talia's voice was steady, but inside she was shaking. "I know what you think of me. I've heard every whisper, that I seduced the king, that I manipulated him, that I used my heat like a trap." A few alphas shifted uncomfortably. Others didn't bother. "But here's what I think," she continued. "You're not afraid of me. You're afraid of what I represent." She took a step forward. "You're afraid that if someone like me, an orphaned Omega with no last name and no power, can carry the heir to the throne, then everything you've built means nothing." The silence that followed was loud. Talia let it sit. "I didn't ask for this," she said. "I didn't scheme my way into the palace. I made a mistake. I sent the wrong message. And instead of being executed, I was heard." She glanced around the room. Eyes met hers, cold, curious, calculating. "I can't undo that. I wouldn't even if I could, because now I know what I am." Her voice dropped, but it didn't weaken. "I'm the mother of your next king, and whether you like me or not, you will respect that." One chair scraped back. Alpha Lice stood. A pause. Then he bowed. Not deep, but enough. One by one, half the council followed. Not all. Not Ronan. Not the older ones clinging to legacy like a leash, but enough. Enough to shift the weight of the room. Talia exhaled. Not relief, just release. A tension she'd carried her whole life. It didn't leave completely, but it cracked. Later, as she walked through the long corridor leading out of the chamber, the air still humming with tension, she heard footsteps behind her. "Impressive," Darius said quietly. She turned. "You were watching." "I always watch." She studied him. "Did I pass your test?" He stepped close. His presence still stole air from her lungs. "You changed the room," he said. "That's more than passing." Talia looked down at her hands, still shaking. "I was terrified." "Good." She frowned. "Good? Means you did it anyway." He took her hand, and for the first time since she arrived at the Citadel, she let him. Not because she needed protection, but because in this moment, for the first time, she believed she deserved it. Talia couldn't sleep, not because of the whispers, not because of the council's judgment or the guards that still watched her like a threat wrapped in silk. No, she couldn't sleep because her wolf was pacing, restless, awake, waiting. The wind outside howled through the towers, cold and sharp. But the room she stood in, her room, though it still didn't feel like it, was quiet. Too quiet. She stepped out onto the balcony, robe tugged tight, hands pressed to her stomach. The moon hung low, silver, full. Her wolf hummed in her chest. And then she heard him. Not footsteps, not voice, presence. Darius. She turned before he even stepped into view. He didn't speak, just looked at her, the way he always did, like he saw more than skin, like he heard her thoughts before she said them. "Can't sleep?" he asked, voice quiet. "No." "Me neither." He walked toward her, slow, measured. A king still, even when stripped of his throne room and armor. She didn't move, not this time. The distance between them shrank to nothing. "I felt you in the council chamber," he said. "I wasn't hiding. I didn't mean your body." She swallowed hard. "Then what?" "Your bond." Her throat tightened. "Talia," he said gently, "when I touched you, that first night, I knew. I didn't. You did," he said softly. "You just didn't know what it meant yet." A long silence stretched between them. The air was different now, thicker, warmer, wired with tension that didn't feel like danger anymore. It felt like destiny. "I don't want to be claimed because of duty," she whispered. He stepped closer. "I don't claim anyone out of duty." "I'm pregnant, Darius." "That changes everything." "It doesn't change this." He reached out, hand hovering near her cheek, but didn't touch her yet. "You think I want you because you're carrying my heir?" he asked. "That's not it." "Then what is it?" "I want you," he said, voice low, "because when I look at you, I stop feeling like a monster." Her breath caught. The moonlight hit his eyes, not cold this time, just exposed. "You've seen what I am," he said, "what I've done. I've killed for power, killed for justice, and I've let people believe I'm nothing but a weapon." Talia's chest ached. "But when I'm with you," he said, "I remember I'm still a man." Silence. Then, "Darius." He touched her cheek, and just like that, her walls cracked. Her wolf surged to the surface, not to run, to meet him. His scent wrapped around her, safe, warm, real. Her hand found his chest. His heartbeat thudded strong beneath her palm. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. When his lips finally touched hers, it wasn't hunger. It was recognition, slow, searing, like something ancient waking from sleep. The kiss deepened but stayed soft. Hands tangled in hair, robes loosened, skin met skin. But it wasn't lust that drove them. It was the bond. It snapped into place like it had always been there, waiting for them to stop resisting. Their wolves howled inside them, answering each other, calling, claiming. When it was done, Talia lay against his chest, heart still racing. His hand traced lazy circles on her back. Neither of them spoke. Not yet. Then he pressed his lips to her neck. Not rough, not savage, a kiss of reverence, and with a whisper of breath, his teeth sank in. Gentle, but final. The mark. She didn't flinch. She leaned into it, and when it was done, he licked the wound clean and pulled her closer. "I won't let anyone hurt you," he murmured. "I know. I'm yours," he said, and for the first time since she'd stepped into this world, Talia believed it. Talia heard the first whisper at breakfast. It was barely a sound, just a flicker of conversation behind a goblet of wine, a servant leaning in too close, a guard's stiffened posture. But her wolf caught it. Scandal, forgery, false mate. She didn't react, not yet. She just sat beside Darius in the great hall, spine straight, face calm, stomach churning. Something was wrong. Deeply, dangerously wrong. By midday, it wasn't whispers anymore. It was headlines. Ink bled across parchment. Omega Queen faked mating claim, staged pregnancy. False bond. Secret lover in Eldermore? Is the heir truly royal? Talia stared at the stack of news reports on the council table, heart hammering. Darius didn't speak, didn't blink, but his hand closed into a fist. "I don't know where this came from," she said. "I swear." "I know," he cut in, still calm, too calm. Alpha Liss was pacing. "It's gaining momentum. The Southern Packs are asking for an independent investigation. They want a bloodline trial. They want a circus," Darius muttered. Ronan stood near the window, arms crossed, his expression smug. "Well, perhaps we moved too fast crowning her. Some traditions exist for a reason." Talia's breath caught. "You think I planted all this?" He didn't answer. Didn't need to. It was in the way he looked at her. Not like a threat. Like a liability. Lysa appeared at her side in the hallway after the meeting, face pale. "You need to stay in your chambers now." "I'm not hiding. You don't have a choice. Some of the nobles are calling for your dismissal from the royal wing." "They can't do that," Talia whispered. Lisa's eyes shimmered. "They can if enough of them vote." Talia stepped into her quarters and slammed the door behind her. The sound echoed like a slap. She stared at herself in the mirror. The same mirror that had once made her feel royal. Now, she just looked like a target. Her hand moved to her belly, still carrying the air, still bonded, still his. So why did it feel like everything was slipping? Night fell. Darius didn't come. Not that night. Not the next. By the third day, she cracked. She stormed into the West Tower, straight into the war room. Guards flinched, but didn't stop her. She slammed both hands on the table where Darius and 3 generals stood bent over a map. "You said I changed the room," she said, voice shaking. "So why am I being shut out of it now?" Darius looked up, not angry, worse, detached. "Because I'm trying to protect you." "From what? Lies?" "From a system that doesn't care what's true." Silence. He sighed, rubbed a hand down his face. "I'm handling it." "No. You're burying me in silence." She stepped closer. "You think if you distance yourself, it'll go away. That they'll forget me. I'm trying to keep you and the baby out of the crossfire. I was born in the crossfire." Her voice cracked. He froze. Talia blinked fast, jaw trembling. "I'm not afraid of being hated, Darius. I'm afraid of being erased." That landed. He stepped forward. Slowly, gently. "You're not being erased." "Then let me speak." "Talia, in public," she said. "Let me stand. Let me tell them the truth. All of it. What I was, what I am, what I've survived." He hesitated. "I can take it," she said, softer now. I've taken worse. And finally, he nodded. 3 days later, the throne hall was packed. Cameras, nobles, soldiers, the entire realm was watching. Talia stood alone at the center. No crown, no jewels, just herself. Her voice rang out, clear and full. I was born in the slums of Eldermoor. My mother died giving birth. I scrubbed blood off floors before I could write my name. I was beaten, mocked, hidden, until one day I sent a message, by mistake, to a man I didn't even know was a king. I thought it would destroy me. It didn't. It changed everything. She turned slowly, meeting every pair of eyes. I didn't ask for this life, but I won't apologize for surviving it. You want proof of the bond? Ask my wolf. Ask your king. Darius stepped out from behind the throne, cloak dragging across stone. He said nothing, just took her hand. The mark on her neck glowed faintly in the flickering torchlight, and in that moment the crowd knew. She wasn't pretending. She wasn't a fraud. She was fire in Omega form. Talia screamed, not from fear, from life tearing its way through her body like a storm of fire and blood and breath. The room spun. Her back arched. The pain was ancient, raw, wild. Lysa held her hand. A healer chanted something low and steady near the hearth. The midwife's arms were stained to the elbows. Another wave crashed through her. Her claws dug into the mattress. Talia, push. The voice wasn't Darius. He wasn't here. She'd told him not to be. He would have seen her like this. Feral, broken open, helpless. She didn't want him to remember her this way. But gods, in this moment, she needed him. Another contraction, another scream. Her wolf roared in her chest, writhing with instinct. Almost there, the midwife said. No, she thought, already there. Her body broke. Her mind shattered. And then, a cry, high, sharp, alive. The sound cut through the room like a sword through silence. Then came another cry. 2. Talia blinked. Twins, the midwife said. You carried twins. Talia collapsed back onto the pillows, sweat soaked, vision blurring. Twins, a boy, a girl, both crying, both alive. The healer cleaned them fast, laid one on each side of her chest. Tiny faces, warm skin. Their scent hit her like lightning. Her wolf curled protectively around them, instinct howling. She was theirs. They were hers. She wanted Darius. She didn't have to say it. He appeared 10 minutes later, boots forgotten, shirt half-buttoned, breath tight with fear. He looked at her, at the babies, and froze. Talia didn't speak. She didn't need to. He crossed the room in 3 strides and dropped to his knees beside the bed. His hands trembled as he reached for the boy, but paused. She nodded once. Permission. He held his son like he was glass, then his daughter. His eyes shimmered, just a little. I've killed 1,000 wolves, he whispered. Faced down rebellions, survived assassination. But I've never been this afraid. Talia smiled weakly. That makes 2 of us. He leaned in and kissed her forehead. No crown, no titles. Just the man, the mate, the father. 3 weeks later, the palace held its breath. The naming ceremony was packed. Nobles, council heads, foreign alphas, all waiting to see if the king would truly name Omega-born pups his heirs. Talia stood beside him, dressed in white, no longer hidden. Her mark gleamed gold beneath her collarbone, and in her arms, 2 tiny symbols of rebellion. Darius stepped forward, held both children, and spoke their names into the room. Kairos Vale, Ayla Vale, my heirs, by blood, by bond, by fate. No one dared challenge him, because they didn't need to fear him anymore. They feared her. Later, on the same balcony where they'd first touched, where everything changed, Talia watched the moon rise. Darius stood behind her, arms around her waist, both of them silent as the night breathed. "What now?" she asked softly. He kissed her neck. "Now we build." "A kingdom?" "A legacy." She looked down at her hands, once cracked, burned, bruised. Now they held the future, and she realized she'd never been powerless. Not then, not now, not ever again. Not